Audio, video. Okay, we're recording. Welcome to session 3 of our interdisciplinary software seminar. If you are not mathematically inclined, please subscribe and see you back in seminar 4. For example, if you are a Bernie Sanders voter and you have anxieties that he won't be on the ballot, computer science can help you. It is our intention here to create a virtual urn, and you may have something to say about who should be on the ballot, what should be the look and feel of our upcoming app. And, I can't promise anything for the 2020 election, honestly. The only promise I am willing to make is to have an app for the 2022 Brazilian elections. But it could be a generic app. It could be used for as soon as it's ready, hopefully sooner rather than later. But if you are mathematically inclined, you are welcome to watch the rest of this video. And what we will be doing is I will be giving you my recipe for turning a cellular automaton into a cryptographic function. And then I will reveal the best way to punctuate a binary string this side of the blue. It's a really underrated aspect of computational mathematics known as the Zeckendorf Representation. But let's begin with item 1, my recipe for turning a cellular automaton into a cryptographic function. Here's our cellular automaton right there. It's a 2-bit, one-dimensional CA. And the first thing to notice about it is that any bit switch will change the message. The way to see that is, let's say you have a 0, 0, and one of the bits isn't identical anymore. Well, it's not going to evaluate to 0 anymore. It's going to evaluate either to 1 or to 1. Same thing if you have a 1, 0, and suddenly both bits are the same, it's going to evaluate to 1, 1 or 0, 0, and that's no longer a 1, that's a 0, and so on and so forth. Now, if you think about it, let's say you got these two switched and flipped to a 1, 1, it might look like we're not going to change anything because 1, 1 is still going to evaluate to 0, but at some point on this 1, 1, there's going to be a conflict on the edges because you're going to have a bit and then a 1 instead of a bit and then a 0. And that's going to change the message. So either way, you're always going to change the message. Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult over large bit strings to verify the randomness aspect of the cellular automaton. So here we have a naive approach to building a cryptographic function. What we'll do is we're only going to take 10-bit strings, and on these over 10-bit strings, 10-bit wide strings, we're going to have a cellular automaton application of a CA that we already checked to see if the results are reasonably random. And that's very easy to do brute force. A computer will do that in, I think, less than a second. To check if it's really if the function is random enough to be cryptographic over 10-bit strings. So we apply the cellular automaton to these 10-bit strings until we get a single bit left. Here we concatenate the bits, and then we go again until the result is close to the required length of the message digest. The reason why this works, I already said that. It's easy to check that the function is behaving appropriately. The CA is behaving appropriately over the 10-bit strings. But it fails because a bit-switched message now has a 50-50 chance of producing the exact same digest as the original message. Let's see why that is. Let's say we got this switched over to a 0. And then we apply the CA however many times until we get a single bit left. Well, we pretty much have we already checked that the result is going to be random. It's going to be a 50-50 1 or 50-50 0 over 50 over 10-bit strings. But now we lost the assurance that the message digest is going to change, because this bit right here can remain the same. These bits are going to remain the same, presumably, because there was no bit switch. And now that there's a bit switch here, there's a 50-50 chance that this bit will remain the same, and then we won't change anything. So here's our better approach. So let's say we're dealing with 10-bit strings. We do in a 100-bit length window application of the cellular automaton on the data. And this will allow bit switches to propagate first. Then we do this scheme over here, and then we're done. Now, just as a sanity check, let's look at what's happening here. Here, I flipped a bit. It's in red, this bit right here, in red. I flipped it to a 1. And then I applied the cellular automaton on the data to see what would happen. You can see these numbers 1, 2, 2, 4, 2, 4, 4, 8 right here. These are the Hamming distances. The Hamming distance is just the number of different bits between one bit string and the other. So we begin with a Hamming distance of 1, and then that became a 2, that became a 2, a 4, and so forth as we change, as we apply the cellular automaton. Now, you might think that this is kind of, strange that here we have a 2 as a Hamming distance. But notice that we have a smaller Hamming distance over a smaller amount of data, because what's happening here is that these bits, you see this, they're always going to be different here. They're always going to be different. Now, these bits are always going to be the same, but they're disappearing as we apply the cellular automaton. So although they're the same bits, they won't, you see, they're not in red. They're the same bits on both messages. The truth is, they're going to disappear anyway. And you can see the error propagating towards the left of the bit that's always different, And here we have an enormous Hamming distance, a Hamming distance of 8. And then if we apply again, it falls. The Hamming distance will fall again, but it's still gaining significance because it's falling over smaller bit string. And next thing we're going to do is really fun. So stay tuned for that. I'm just going to kind of pause before all hell breaks loose because I reached my 10-minute limit.